Welcome back to Level Up Your Gym podcast. I'm your host, Joe Hashey, and today we'll be talking about how to attract your members, develop your business, and build your team. And I sneak that last one in there, and a lot of solo entrepreneurs at the beginning don't think about that. But even before you have staff, you need to start identifying where you're going to need people to fit in. If you start thinking about that after you put out hiring ads, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Gym owners will hire someone and say, I need an admin. That person will come in and ask the gym owner, what should I do? And they say, I don't respond to emails, do customer service. And if that's not clearly defined, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So before we get into what I would suggest with our 3 things today, I'm going to remind you, levelupyourgym.com has a lot of these concepts on a free video series for you. It's delivered to your inbox every morning, and you can watch it around your schedule. They're 3 to 5 minutes, short, bite-sized, like a gym business masterclass, right to your inbox, completely free at levelupyourgym.com. So today's episode is dedicated to Brian, and yes, he spells it Bryon. Brian's been one of my longest staff members. We had one facility when I hired Brian, and it was in the back of a baseball development facility. We've expanded that to 10,000 square feet. He's now in charge of that facility. We opened another one. We bought a building. Brian's been along for that ride, and in our company, he sits in the head coach spot, the trainer mentor spot, where he develops our staff. So I was asked this question. I'm learning how crucial staff development has to be. What are your strategies on staff development? How can we move past, how come you weren't coaching us? So staff development is going to be important for you for a few reasons. The first one is that you might not have the most money to invest in a staff member up front. So you need to develop them, and they need to see you as a mentor and someone that's helping them in their career. Even if they don't stay with you forever, you want to help them develop and help them move on. There is a famous analogy that used to go something like an IBM staff development person, they were asking about how much money they put into these people. And someone says, well, why do you put in all that money if they're just going to leave? And then the other person, the staff developer, retorted, well, what if we don't invest in their staff development and they stay? Well, then you're left with a bunch of staff that aren't getting done what you need to get done. So we need to invest in our staff, and that's seen as a perk. So you get your hourly wage. You might be able to give them some health care eventually. You might eventually get them some investments. You might be able to support your staff like that. But one of the first perks you can give a staff member when you're first starting out is mentorship and development. So here's the 3 things that I'm going to suggest to you today. Number 1, clarity. Each staff person needs to know exactly what you expect out of them. When they accomplish that, they need and deserve to feel good about it. So you need to give them feedback. So here's an unclear example. Train this session. Hire someone, you tell them, train this session. That is the assignment you give them. Well, if you didn't give them a very clear trainer's handbook on what you expect, and they go out there and they have people do an exercise that you don't approve of, or they don't do a greeting like you want, or they don't do a closing statement like you want, or they don't flow around enough, or there's sets and rep schemes all over the place, well, that's your fault. You did not provide them clarity on exactly what you expected. So you need to spend a significant amount of time in coming up with what you want out of your staff. You need to provide them clarity so they feel good about it and you feel good about that. That ambiguity is going to weigh on your shoulders, give you stress, and keep you up at night. And it's going to do the same to them. You're going to burn people out if you just say, hey, I'm going to hire you to train the session. Oh, you're not doing a good job. And they're like, well, what job do you want me to do? You got to tell them. Clarity. And for a tactical example is you need to have a trainer's handbook on exactly how your sessions run. If you're the only trainer, do it now. So when you hire someone, it's not going to get screwed up and you're not going to have big attrition rate. People aren't going to start canceling saying, oh, this person's different. It's not the trainer's fault. It's your fault if someone's training one of your sessions differently. You're in charge of coming up with it. Clarity, and the example would be a trainer's handbook. Number 2 is support. So they want to feel involved. I did a podcast recently for you on Level Up Your Gym on using your resources wisely, and I don't necessarily believe that everyone should sit in weekly meetings. You can do stand-ups and check-ins with them, but you need to give them support and feedback until they're doing the job that you gave them a clear definition that you want done. I prefer online support. We use something called SamePage. There's another one called Slack that is super popular. We use G Suite as well. Someone could use G Suite Chat or whatever. Whatever you want, but I like it. So at the end of a session, they check out and they give a bullet point list. They say, today I did bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And they just say, I trained Carol, she told me her knee hurt. I upgraded Johnny, sold 2 sweatshirts, sold a protein, and rescheduled Catherine for a second trial. Hits enter. Now we're all communicating. And if I can read that and I will tell her, hey, you know about that lady with the knee injury? She was telling me something else, and I think it's a glute weakness. Let's not do a lot of loading on in deep knee bends. Let's have her seated. Let's do some adduction, abduction, and see if we can keep her knee healthy. So I can give them support on the training and what's important to them. But the only way I can do that is if I give them an avenue for communication. Along with support, you are going to have to do some meetings. Here's how I like to run meetings. I choose a staff member that did something awesome, and I have them share it as a best practice. Sure, meetings are a little bit more complicated than that, but nothing makes a staff member feel better than being highlighted for something as small as possible, as small as just anything you can find where they can be highlighted, feel good that they're progressing in their career with you and that they're learning things. And you can hear the passion in my voice. I love this stuff when you can highlight one of your staff members for doing a good job. Now, again, our trainer mentor's name is Brian. He's in charge of this these days, and he does a great job. He'll have staff members say, all right, our topic today, and he'll choose one of our company's core values, which could be a whole nother separate podcast, but it might be meet people where they're at, one of our core values, to make sure trainers understand that each person is an individual. And they'll say, this month, Holly, you did an amazing job of meeting people where they're at by making sure that Catherine with a knee injury had a safe program. Can you talk to us about how you learned that she had knee issues, what you did to develop, and then she can instruct and be highlighted in the class, and then you kind of sprinkle in your final thoughts and anything you need to add to it at the end. But I love best practice shares for staff members because that is supporting each other, but it's also making them feel like an expert, and there is value in that. And the third thing is independence. Once you get through those stages of teaching them exactly what you want with clarity, supporting them while they learn that, you need to back up and let them do it. We do 90-day evaluations. We have any serious conversations then. If there's something that comes up, of course, we'll jump on it and handle it. But I'm also not going to sit in the corner and stare at the trainers. Here's why. The person that asked this question owns one facility. He was the original trainer, and he trained everyone. Now, how do you think the members are going to act if the head honcho is sitting in the room staring at the trainer all the time? Are they going to trust that new person? Or are they just going to go over to the former owner and be like, oh, we miss you? That person's ego will get stoked. They'll say, all right, this person's not doing a good job. I'm going to have to come back in. Oh, no. And really, they screwed up. They didn't give the person clarity. They didn't give them support, and they didn't let them independently be seen as the person in control of that class. I'll leave you with this story, and this comes back from my teaching days. I used to do classroom management workshops at Colgate University. After I graduated, that's where I was from, so they would invite me back to teach how to manage classrooms. And a young soon-to-be teacher raised her hand and asked, how are these students going to take me seriously if I'm just a few years older? And she was worried about that. And one of the professors with me said that you are in charge until you prove otherwise in the classroom. Now, your trainers have probably a tougher task than she was going to have in the classroom because they're probably younger than a lot of your members. So how are we going to get this person seen as an expert so you get more freedom to grow your company in the eyes of your clients? And that is providing clarity, providing support, and then let them do their thing. And that same bit of wisdom from teaching applies to this too. They are in charge until you start knocking their confidence, until you start telling them they're not doing it right if you didn't even tell them what you expected, and you're not providing the support, and then you're not backing away, because members will always look to you for the answers, and you're going to end up in a world of hurt, tons of headaches, lose sleep over it, because you'll never be able to get yourself off the training floor, and you're not going to be able to survive a full working career being a one-person trainer.